Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Saturday, and this is working live with Red Worldwide, and we're on our Smarter Start Boot Camp. And so this we do this every Saturday, and we're pretty excited about it. Some of us have kind of been chatting it up before we got into the actual session. So for those of you who are seeing me smiling and kind of half laughing, it's because we've been on here and just kind of chatting about some things that, each of us are doing. And it's kind of an exciting mode. And so today we're going to continue with the Smarter Start Bootcamp. And just for those of you who don't know what Smarter Start is or how it works, well, what we do with Smarter Start Bootcamp is we try to utilize this time to help people that are just starting a business, or maybe they started the business, but they kind of got the cart before the horse. There were things that they didn't know about, and they jumped in there anyway. And so in doing so, they now realize, there are some things that I probably should have done differently, or things that I should have maybe learned a little bit more about because I have no clue some of these things that I'm being asked for. And so we talked about how over the last few weeks we had some really different uh, content that had gone out from Smarter Start, and a lot of it has had to do with it's been based on what people have needed. When people come to the boot camp, just like when we come to our regular co-working during the week, they come sometimes with a question. And so that we start with the question in mind, and then we just kind of move from there. And one of the questions that we had been really looking at for people who are just starting or restarting or, storing some things up is, what are all these documents that I need to have when I start my company? How do I really start? Some people are coming from the background of being a sole proprietor. And so they didn't necessarily have to register any documents with the Secretary of State. Some people, even when they've been a sole prop, they didn't even go down and get a fictitious business name statement. So they don't realize that there are some, steps if they might have missed. So let's kind of go over a couple of those. If you have started a business and you are running this company in a for-profit manner, okay, there are a few things that you might want to do to minimize your risk and to keep yourself in a position where you can keep good records and have the ability to know exactly, how much money you're making and where you should be reporting that if you are making any money. And so as we look at the beginnings of business, at the very least, you should have a fictitious business statement that says what the name of your company is. Okay. And this particular statement is a statement where you go down to your county, or if you are in a remote location where you are in an unincorporated county, sometimes it might be in the next county or it might even be in your city, but you go to register your name through what we call a fictitious business name statement or a doing business as. So you register yourself, my name, Patience Rose, doing business as whatever the name is of your company, whatever the name you've chosen. And based on that, then you are able to be found in some sort of a registry doing business as this name. It also makes it now available, the name, and when I say it, the name is what I'm talking about, for you to go and get a business license, because in some cities, you are required to have a business license for any type of business you're doing in their city. In other cities, there are a litany of businesses that may require this business license. So it's important for you to follow the instructions per city and find out what your requirements are. But when you get your fictitious business name statement, the first thing you will need to do is to publish the name in some type of journal or newspaper or other kind of publication. And usually at that county office, the courthouse, wherever you're registering, the county clerk, they will give you a list of companies that are appropriate for you to publish with. And so some of those you can publish with maybe online. Some you have to physically go into their publication and fill out a form. But at the end of the day, you have to publish it, and it has to run for a certain amount of weeks to let other people know that you are now doing business as that particular name. Now, this is really important for people who are sole proprietors to understand, because if you do not do this, there may be some implications that could, expose you to other kinds of risks, and you may get caught in the crosshairs of not being in compliance with what is required per law in your area. So it's important for you to check, and you might ask, where would I check? Well, it depends on your city, but we're going to share our screen and we will show you, what this could look like for you. So let's see. Let me pull up a browser, and we can take a look at, the fictitious business name statement in the area where I am from. And we're going to look up how to get fictitious business name statement in Fort Worth, Texas. We kind of go back and forth between states. And so therefore, we have some different rules that we have to follow depending on the kind of business we're doing and in what state. But we're going to look up Tarrant County, because in Tarrant County, which is where our offices are, there are some specific rules for filing a fictitious business name statement. It's pretty much the same in most places that you would go to the county office website. And when you go to the county office website, usually they'll have a search bar, and you can put in the search bar what you're looking for. And in this case, it was the fictitious business name statement. And in doing that, it brings up the how do I section, and it actually will list all the different types of filings. And on this page, register for a DBA, or doing business as assumed name, and what fees are associated with this filing. And so it gives you the options of going into any of these offices. And based on that, you would actually have to go to the vital statistics office in Tarrant County. Now, let's look at what it would be like to do this in Ventura County. Fictitious, because I want to show you something, that every place is different. And it's really important for you to realize that what's required in Texas may very well be, just for that area of Texas. But in another place, they may have a whole different set of requirements. So over here, they basically want you to appear in person in the office with a valid picture identification, and you must appear before a notary public and have your signature acknowledged on the completed form before it can be accepted for filing. Now, they give you, this is the Texas that I'm talking about. They give you the form online so you can have it filled out before you get there. And then they even send you to the fee page so you can understand how much this is going to cost. So you can click on the fees and look at the fee schedule and find out exactly how much it will cost for you to get the fictitious business name in Texas. Okay. But this is in Tarrant County, because now Johnson County is one county over and they have a little bit different, setup. So you need to make sure that you're looking at the exact county where you are. And if you are going to want to have your fictitious business name in more than one county, then you're going to have to apply in more than one county. Some states allow you to fill out the form and put on there that you want all counties in that state. And so that's a wonderful opportunity, because that means you only have to fill out one form. But you have to find out for your state what is required, because if you're going to be doing business in more than one county as a sole proprietor, it may be required. I didn't say it is, but it may be required that you have to do this in more than one county. So here in Ventura County, they tell you the following requirements. And basically, they give you the information that's most current. So January 1st, they had some different things that changed. That you no longer have to give them your residential address on, and you can instead give them a business address. For what purpose? Because some people do not want their physical address located on this form. It could be a level of vulnerability that they are not willing to deal with. And so it's important that you look at the changes. And so they're saying that the AB 7878 um, is in accordance with the new law. Okay. And so this is Assembly Bill 878. It aims to protect the privacy of business owners while ensuring the necessary information is available to the public. So they give you the filing requirements, and they also tell you, what is now being accepted on these online applications. And it goes through that and it tells you the fees. And then it also explains the publishing requirements. So this is pretty much the same in all places. Now, I want to make sure you understand that not just people who are doing business as themselves are the people that need to fill out this form. There's sometimes when corporations or limited liability companies or partnerships are also doing business under another name. So this form is not just for you if you're a sole proprietor. This is for you if you need to do business as any name. Okay, so we want to make that really clear. But if you are doing business as a sole proprietor, this is the least you would probably want to do, because you need to make sure that people know that you're doing business and this is the name that you're using to do business. So I'm going to go back one form here, one step here. On this same form in Ventura County, they also have access to the business license, because in this city, it's, in these cities, I should say, it is required that you file a business license. And that you let the city know that you're doing business, and they have a list of businesses that you need to make sure that you have a business license for. And there are businesses that do not require a license, and so you need to look at those. But some people think, well, if I have a nonprofit, I don't have to have a business license. That is not the case, especially in this city. So you want to look at the county business licenses as well as the city business licenses and see who is required to fill out the form for a license, a permit, okay, in your area. All right, so that's as much as I'm going to say about this. I just wanted to make sure we covered this because that was a question that had been asked before, and we wanted to make sure that we did share that information. Now, something else that we want to talk about is, how do you represent what your company is going to ascribe to as its rules or bylaws in your business? And so we want to talk about the fact that there are several things that you need to do when you're starting a business. And when you are becoming a corporation, or even an unincorporated association, you need to establish the rules. And those rules need to be done in the public eye, because in many places it is required that your bylaws go with you to the bank when you're trying to open up an account. Sometimes when you're trying to get a bid or a grant, they ask to see your bylaws. Other times, it might be just a matter of board members wanting to also see bylaws because they want to just make sure that certain rules are there. So let's talk about what bylaws are. So these are some sample bylaws, and these bylaws were prepared by an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of California. And so the provisions conform to the laws of the state of California. And let me go backwards. Remember, I shared with you in one of our previous Smarter Start boot camp and also in co-working that the federal government had passed along the responsibility for managing what businesses do, the commercial activities of businesses, to every state. So each state has their own commercial code, their own set of rules for you as a business in that state. And because of that, there are different types of bylaws that are acceptable. And today we're not going to break down the bylaws or talk about what's good in this state or that state. What I will say is that it is of my opinion as a business advisor, as a certified business advisor, as a person with an MBA and a person with a Master of Science degree in several other areas, along with, you know, well, I have this thing. I have 3 masters and I'm working on 2 more, and I have a bunch of receipts. I've gone to school. I have certifications in entrepreneurship and other kinds of business. And I'm saying that for a reason, because I want to quantify my statement. When I tell you that if you are not doing business in a particular state, it might not be a good idea for you to register your company in that state, because you may not be aware of what, even though it might be easier, even though that state may have some wonderful rules for how people do business, and their commercial code might support things that you really ascribe to and believe in. The other thing that you have to be thinking about is if there's ever a dispute, especially if it's ever the state against you, the state is always going to have the upper hand. And so I'll give you an example of something like that that has occurred. There, are these rules about what has happened in the state of Delaware with a particular case that is going on right now. And some people are looking at that saying, man, how come this person is having a problem in the state of Delaware? Delaware has some very easy rules for commercial code and how people can do business. And I have a Delaware company, and I just, I went to Delaware because of Delaware's rules, and that's wonderful. However, what you also need to be aware of is if you're doing business outside of Delaware, your business is located in Delaware, but you're doing business outside of Delaware, the rules of the prevailing state is the rule where the business is being done. And if you are doing business in Texas with a Delaware company and you did not become a foreign corp in Texas, if you have a physical location, you may be at risk of a fine per day if it is found out that you are providing services to someone in the state of Texas without the rules being followed, meaning that you don't have, your corporation is not registered there, you may not have a business license to do business there, and all of these wonderful things. So if you're going to get a business set up in another in another state, not another country, but in another state, you need to make sure that you have permission to do business in the state where you're located. So when we're talking about provisions that conform to the laws of a particular state, you need to also be very much aware of whatever the provisions are in that state if you decide to register your business in another state. I am a person that really believes less is more. Then creating less challenges for yourself is a better opportunity for you to do good business. And, although I've had Nevada corporations and I've also helped people set up corporations in the state of Wyoming because of the fact that the laws there just seem to fit more with what the person was doing. But at the end of the day, especially with the Corporate Transparency Act and some of these new laws that have just been instituted over the last 5 years, it is not to the benefit, of many people if they're doing physical business in a location to have their business in a different state where they're doing business. Now, what about people who are doing business online? Well, there's a different opportunity for you because jurisdiction may be different. Venue may be different. If I'm performing services in a different state, my company's located in Texas, but I do online services only, then of course, my prevailing state might be where I'm located. So based on that, and based on the laws of my state, venue could very well be different. But if a lawsuit ensues, What we have seen happen is people who are doing business but intrastate from one place to another. They're located in one place, and a person found them online to have them provide a service to them. It may have been in their privacy policy and in there, which we did go over privacy policies and terms and conditions and refund policies and all of that the other week. On your website, you have all of these things, and these things are really important because this is where you get to say, that we are an online business and the state of that the laws that are going to be followed for our company are going to be X state, and so based on that, then now you have some girth, if I could say. You have, your anchor is at a particular place, and it gives you the ability to take advantage of the laws and conform to the laws where you have venue based on the company's, organizational document. So with that said, I just want you to be thinking about this. I'm not an attorney, okay, although I've taken business law, a couple of different types of business law, and I'm in tax procedures class now, and I have a few more law classes to take, in one of the other master's degrees that I'm getting right now. That does not make me an attorney, but it does make me informed. So I'm just saying to you that you need to confirm, the laws in your state, be your own best business advisor, okay, and get out there and look at the commercial code in your state, or look at the commercial code that's associated with the state where your business hails from, so you'll know what you have available to you. So now, looking at these bylaws and understanding that they've been prepared by an attorney, and they are current as of right now, okay? And I'm going to give you the date today because we always do that whenever we provide you with documents. We tell you the date. So as of right now, these bylaws are current, and today's date is February 24th, 2024. Okay, so with that said, you have the ability to understand that the information in this particular document is still current if nothing else has changed in the laws or the commercial code in California, as of the time you're watching the video. So bylaws are rules that describe how the corporation will be managed and its affairs conducted. They may include any provisions that are not in conflict with California law or with the corporation's articles of incorporation, including, for example, the time, place, and manner of calling, conducting, and giving notice of shareholders, directors, and committee meetings, the manner of execution, revocation, and use of proxies, the qualifications, duties, and compensation of directors, the time of the director's annual election, the requirements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You see where I'm going with this. So you need to be aware that this particular document is one that describes how things are to be done in the company that this is associated with. This is not a unilateral document for all companies that are for profit. This is a document that is for your company. So when someone gives you a sample document like this, you need to go through and do what? And make it yours, okay? Make it your own. So inserting your name, changing things that you don't ascribe to, adding things that make sense for your company. And then you still, after you do those things, you might want to have your business advisor, your attorney or consultant go over it with you to make sure that these things are still, the changes that you made were appropriate for what it is that you need them to be appropriate for, and that they did not materially change the construct of the document. Okay, so that's really important. Okay. And so for the most part, everything that it needs to be in this document is here for a company that is just getting started. And you might want to look at some very specific things like the dates that you might want to have your meeting every year, how many people are to be in a quorum, and a quorum is how many of the people will you need that are actually in your on your board or members of your company, how many of them would have to be present to make a decision. That's what a quorum would be, what the total amount is that would have to be there of the people that are actually board members. And then it goes through the directors and their powers. It speaks of, a lot of times you'll see bylaws speaking of what people are going to be in the company, as board members, president, vice president, secretary. It'll list out, who the directors are, what committees might be available. So here we have the officers and appointment of officers and the chairman of the board, president, vice presidents, secretaries, chief financial officer might be in there as well at some point, or treasurer. And then there's, this whole concept of indemnification of officers, so that people are not held responsible for things that are going on in the company. So you have all of these things. You might have something that talks about an ex officio member, somebody that may be a founder that can never be put off the board, things of this nature. So these are all here. And this particular document, if you guys would like to have it, you can send us an email at advisor@redworldwide.org, and we will send you a copy if you are interested in getting a copy of this particular sample. We have a sample that's more generic in that it's not necessarily for California law, but it has just the basic information. So if you want that one, we can give you that one as well. But we can also, we have other states that we have documents that have been created by attorneys. And these documents or software. We have a legal software that we can create a sample document for you for your state. And if you are interested, we do that for you for free. So you can send us, an email at advisor@redworldwide.org, and we'll send it to you. Okay, so let's take a look at another type of document that comes up frequently. And we referenced it a few weeks ago, and we did send people a copy that asked for one, but we didn't necessarily show it to you. So we're going to show it to you today, just because of the fact that we want you to see that, what this document looks like. So this is the conflict of interest policy. And so this is a really, really important document for a lot of types of businesses, especially nonprofit. But we see some legal things that are happening right now all over YouTube. We've been seeing some things occur for different companies that have to do with conflict of interest. And so this is a conflict of interest policy and annual statement for directors and officers and members of a committee with board delegated powers. So this would be could be a for-profit, a nonprofit, an LLC, an unincorporated association could also use this same type of conflict of interest policy. And basically what this is to protect the person's interest when it's or the company's interest, depending on, how the company is being run, when it's contemplating entering into a transaction or arrangement that might benefit the private interest of an officer or director of this particular company, or might result in possible excess benefit transactions. Sometimes people are doing business and they might be working from their home or working from an office that they own, okay? And it might be beneficial for them because they may be receiving rent, okay, from the company for the building that they own. And so this conflict of interest policy may need to state this ownership or investment interest in in any entity or the company, the commercial company that's renting the building to your company. Or it could be that maybe you have other services that are being provided to the company, and those services are services that a person might be paying for. So this could be a conflict of interest that needed to be disclosed. So having the conflict of interest policy gives you the ability to disclose it. Now, in this particular case, this one was designed for nonprofits specifically. So that's why you'll see in here the IRS 990 form, because this is specific to the conflict of interest that might arise in a nonprofit. So this is an absolutely important document for anybody that has a nonprofit organization, because the essence of a nonprofit is that it will not inure to the benefit of any person or group of persons. It is as it is exempt nature, it cannot have that kind of construct where it's giving back some kind of interest. And when I say interest, I mean a financial interest, to an individual or group of individuals. And if there's a relationship that needs to be disclosed that says, well, the nonprofit is renting for $1 the business location, from the president of the company, that needs to be put on a form, okay? And it needs to be done before this happens so that it's disclosed that the person that owns the building is getting $1 for the rental. Now, is it inappropriate, or is it not something that is likely that a person could do? And no, you can definitely rent your building to your nonprofit as long as you follow proper, rules, and you disclose that to all parties that would need to know, because you don't want it to look like you're renting the building for $1 million, okay? And nobody knew that this building was being rented and that you owned the building, right? So you want to make sure that the company has a compensation committee, and that if any kind of situation occurs where there's a compensation arrangement with an entity or an individual that is, closely connected to the company, that it has been not just disclosed, but that you follow the proper rules for doing so. That it's not a situation where it falls outside of, something that is allowable. Okay. So this is really, really important that you make sure that you take care of this. Okay. Well, those two things are what we're going to share today. This was the bylaws of the conflict of interest policy. I'm hoping that as you're taking a look at this, if you need to have this, we have conflict of interest policies for not just nonprofit organizations, but for-profit entities and LLCs. So if you need to get copies of these templates, we can provide those to you again by you sending us an email at advisor@redworldwide.org. Or if you are on here live with us in Zoom, please put it in the chat that you would like to get a copy, and we'll make sure you have that. And just like when we gave out last week or week before last, the articles of organization and the operating agreements, we want you to have access to the documents that you need to run your company. And so I hope that this has been helpful today, the information that we provided. And if you have questions, please go to our website, become a part of the community, ask your questions in the community so that we can get the answer for you.